with what it is. In Elicio, hello, welcome. Thanks for joining. Appreciate it. I'm here to answer your questions. So since you're the first one here, go ahead and start shooting some questions that you may have. While you think of questions, I'm going to go ahead and jump into my old actual live stream, the one from yesterday, just to see if there's any questions on there that are kind of looming. One of the questions I've been getting a lot of that I finally released a video on, it's on joincfe.com/YouTube, is how to integrate React or Angular or Vue with Django. I made a really quick video. It's like 14 minutes long. So you're going to want to have some familiarity with Django to get that done. But I did it, and I think that it's solid. I mean, it goes really fast. But for those of you who are familiar with this stuff, you can go ahead and check it out now. Ravi, hello. What's up? Bakra, is that how you pronounce it? Hey, how's it going, man? Or woman? Sorry, I shouldn't jump to knowing what gender you are. Samuel, hello, welcome. Sutan, hello, thanks for coming out. Douglas Ortega, hello. Cheers from Honduras. Hello, welcome. Interesting, never been. I want to go to a lot of places around the world, and I would say that I haven't seen enough of the world and enough of the people in it. Right now, I'm in California, Newport Beach, so hello from California. Leo, hello, welcome. Welcome to the live stream, you guys. I'm happy to have you here. And we got in Elicio, I believe that's how you pronounce that. Please let me know. Django and React could be the best option because React is only the Vue. Not sure what your question is there, Elicio, so maybe rephrase it. I'm just confused. Actually, I'm going to leave it on that question and address some of the ones from yesterday's live stream before we get all of your questions. Okay, so this is from yesterday, April 4th, 2018. Today's April 5th. Wow, geez, this time is just flying by. We need a course on how to build single-page apps with Django and a front-end framework. I have a course like that. It's on joincfe.com/projects as well as joincfe.com/courses. I'm assuming you mean right here on YouTube. Let me know if that's what you guys want. If you want to see more of the single-page apps, like something like Angular or React, if you want to see more of those things integrating with Django, let me know. I need to hear from you guys about that, whether it's right now in the live stream or if you're watching this later or at any time. You can let me know in the comments, or you can tweet at me at Justin Mitchell, JustinMitchell, or at Join CFE. That's JOINCFE. Those are my Twitter handles that you can hit me up on. Next one is how to cross-compile using toolchain for Target Raspberry Pi 3. Rajan asked this yesterday. I'm actually not sure what you're trying to do, so I don't have an answer for you. Sorry about that. Chris asks, thanks for the live Q&A. You're welcome, Chris. I'm glad that you came out yesterday. You have Ionic 3, Cordova, and you want to show ads in your app using Facebook native ads. Is there a way to implement it? I'm actually not sure. I haven't used Facebook native ads, so I don't have an answer for you then. And that seems to be all of the questions in the comments there. Cool. So now going back, Eduardo, just a heads up, your messages are being retracted, or your first one. I see that you're from Mexico or Mexico. Welcome and saludos. Sorry, my Spanish is poor, to say the least, as well as my pronunciation and knowing what everything is. Anyways, okay, so now back into the live stream chat. Samuel, I was wondering if you had two user interfaces such that you want teachers to have different dashboards from students. How does model creation work with that? And how would you link the two users? So you want to have teachers have their own sort of dashboard, and you want to have users have, or students have their own sort of dashboard. Well, this is just your view. Your view would render a different HTML template depending on what the user is. and you can actually create a model, like a profile model that has a one-to-one field that would designate what that user is. So without getting into too much of the nitty-gritty technical, just create a signal to create that model, that profile model, and have defaults or some sort of field in your form to define what that user is. Hopefully that answers your question. And then basically in your view, you just render a different template based off of the request user, assuming that user is authenticated, of course. Cool. Thanks for the question, Samuel. Or Samuel. Is it Samuel or Samuel? Samuel, I think, would be more of a Spanish name, but you're Spanish or Mexican, or Latin American. Your last name doesn't look like it's one of those, though, so maybe you're Samuel. Okay, so Douglas Ortega. Justin, what's the best way of creating a report app for a project? Do you recommend a Django project, or should I build my own app inside my Django project? So what are you trying to report would be my first question, right? So do you need graphs and all this stuff, and you just need to display that? Well, you can use Django and build it yourself. We have something for Chart.js with Django. It's definitely on our website. I believe it's on our YouTube channel as well. So joincfe.com or joincfe/YouTube, either one. joincfe.com/YouTube, that is. That will show you how to do that sort of report. If you want to render an PDF so they can download a PDF report, you could do that there. I would say, well, I mean, how I would generate reports with my experience is I would do them myself. I would design a report that is specific for the use case. Because if you use a third-party package that might generate reports for you, you might lose some of that flexibility. And given that it's actually not that hard to turn your Django model or query set into some sort of data, it shouldn't be that hard to generate a report. Now we also have something that is turning a query set into a CSV file or a pandas data frame. And that's actually pretty useful, I would say, in building your project and doing reporting. Hopefully that helps answer your question. Okay, next one. Elicio, Django or React, Django. Oh, gotcha. So which one's better, Django or React, or Django and Angular? Well, React is released by Facebook. Angular is released by Google. So I think both of them have a lot of positives and negatives. I personally have found myself using Angular mostly. Like, I've played around with React, but I found that Angular just has more intuitive features to it. Now, that's not the case for everybody. Some people just love React, and some people would say, don't ever use Angular, just use React. One of the pieces that's kind of, I guess, challenging about Angular is that you have to learn TypeScript to use it. So you can't write pure JavaScript, or maybe you can, but I mean, the way it works by default is you have to use TypeScript, where React, you could just use JavaScript and just start off the bat there. So I think they're both really, really good. And it's kind of like, it's kind of a challenge to give you the best answer there, because things change all the time too. That's the other aspect. So if I was you, I would just pick one and get good at it. And if you don't like it, then switch to the other one and get good at that one. That's what I'd say. All right, so Alicio, you add another one. Can I record a course with Wagtail CMS? I actually don't plan on showing you how to build things using any sort of Django CMS system that's out there. So that's something on the back end. I mean, or the back burner. If a bunch of people want to see a Django-based CMS system, I'll probably reconsider. But I mean, our Try Django 1.9, granted, it's an older version of Django, but all the concepts in there show you how to build a blog, and a blog system is essentially a CMS or a content management system. So I would say do it from scratch. Check that stuff out to see how it's done from scratch. That way you can look at something like Wagtail or any of the other Django CMS packages and sort of make your own call on whether or not you want to go about doing those. Thanks for the question, though, Alicio. I appreciate it. I really hope I am pronouncing your name correctly. Next one, Douglas asks, Also, I want to create a notification app for a Django project. What do you suggest I use for the app to be real time? What other technologies should I use? So Django channels is a asynchronous version of Django. So that means that you can run things in real time, and then you couple that with WebSockets. You can have your backend communicate to your front end and vice versa. So this is where the sort of real time responses would come in. You'll probably have to use Redis as well, which is a messaging queue that allows you to also do things in real time. And I think it's critical for Django channels, actually. I know it definitely used to be. I'm not sure if it still is. I'm pretty sure it is, actually. So that's something I would look up. Now, if you're talking about push notifications versus like just web app notifications, push notifications are like those ones that you get on a mobile application where it's like, hey, so-and-so is going live on YouTube. Justin is going live on YouTube. That's me. If you don't know my name, I never introduce myself. That's really funny. Yeah, I'm Justin from Coding for Entrepreneurs. I'm here to do a live stream with you. Yeah, that's something I probably should do. Just so you guys know me, I guess, right? Yeah. But then I guess I assume that if you're on this live stream, you probably kind of know who I am. Maybe not. Cool. So let's see. You're saying what other technologies? You might use something like Firebase to do notifications. Firebase can provide the push notifications for you in real time as well. Firebase is also, you can use it for a backend storage, so you can use it in lieu of Django, actually, with a front end like React or Angular. And that's probably why Firebase exists. So that's kind of what I've got for you now. Let me know if you have other questions. Douglas, thank you for the questions. Samuel, 2 users exist. So we're back to this question. Okay, teachers and students, they both need to have different dashboards. Yeah, I think I just answered this, so let me know if I didn't. Thanks for the questions, though. Appreciate it. Emmanuel, hello from Nigeria. Hello. Thank you for joining us here. You're taking my e-commerce course on Udemy. Thanks so much. And you're awesome. You're awesome. Thanks, Emmanuel. I appreciate it. Thanks for joining us on this live stream, too. You know, something that I've been thinking about a lot, too, is how do I reach, like, 500,000 subscribers on YouTube? I'm not sure if there's that many programmers that are actually at 500,000 subscribers on YouTube. I have no idea. I would love to get there. So let me know what you guys recommend. I mean, you're on YouTube, so you use it all the time. I'm starting to use it a lot more, as you may have noticed. But I'm just really curious as to, like, how do you get to that really, 500,000 people subscribing is a lot. And my mission, or something I talk about a lot too, is there's quite literally 7,440 million people that do not know how to code. That's 7.4 billion. But the reason I said it in the way I did is because only 20 million or so know how to code. I mean, it might be 30 million, but even still, that's a small portion of our population as a world, as a globe, a global population that doesn't know how to code, or that a small portion is actually coding for everybody else. And I actually find that as a big opportunity. It's an opportunity for all of you who might be in different countries that, yeah, sure, maybe you see something that's working in the United States, but you can bring it local and you can really work one-on-one as you start out, just like what I'm doing right now. Like, if you did this with some of your local users, you might actually end up building something really great for your local community, and hopefully encouraging other people to learn how to code as well. So that's what I've been thinking a lot about. And going after that number of subscribers actually doesn't really mean anything, because I'm really just trying to help you guys that are watching right now do something. I want to help you actually build something with software. So regardless of where we end up going as far as our numbers, that stuff doesn't matter. I would much rather hear from one of you saying, like, hey, I built this thing for my community. Like 500 people use it on a daily basis, and my life has changed. Those are the sort of things that I would much rather see than that number tick to 500,000 subscribers. And granted, if you look at the number I have now, it's like roughly 10 times what I have now. So that was a little side detour. Anyways, thanks so much for watching, you guys. I really, really do appreciate it. And like I said, I really want to help you guys get your projects going. And that's why I'm doing these live events. And I mean, it's also why I teach, but these live things help me understand exactly where you're coming from and hopefully help you guys get some clarification on things that you may have not asked or had the opportunity to ask before. Or even if you have asked it before and you just didn't get the answer you wanted, go ahead, shoot another question. That's what I'm here for, and I try to get as many questions as possible. So that's why subscribing and hitting the notification or the bell for notifications will really help, so you can just jump in. Okay, so back to the questions. Thanks for the little detour or hearing me out on that. Lo Niski says, hey, Justin, I wanted to create a Django app where multiple people could access and edit a collaborative calendar. How would you recommend I approach this project? So that's a really good question. That's a really good project to undertake. So what I would do first actually is figure out how can you make one calendar for one person and then start to add features to that. In other words, how do you make the models to block out certain areas of time for one person? Once you do that, then add the ability to add multiple things for one person, meaning that you can block out a portion of your calendar multiple times. So at 3 p.m., you can have 4 or 5 different events and there's no conflict. So the first one you would do is with conflict, like you can't post a new event that when there's already one there. The second thing you would do is when there is a conflict. And then finally adding in multiple users to do that, I think we'll start to get a lot more clear. Because that's fairly a big project if you're trying to execute this really, really well. So I would start at the very basics first and then work my way up. Let me know if you have more clarification on that or if you've already done that portion. Something else you might consider doing is there's probably a Django package that has these calendars out there. There most likely is on GitHub. So look at and see what their solution is, whether it's for individual things or for a collaborative calendar as well. Jay, hello from the Philippines. Hey, how's it going? Never been. I would love to check it out someday. Probably will. I'll have to bring my whole family with me and maybe even meet some of you guys that live there. Thanks for saying hello. And Eduardo, we've got saludos. Saludos means greetings. I think I may have remembered that, but I might have forgot. Is it kind of like salud? But no, that's different. Sorry, we're getting on a tangent with Spanish here. Eduardo, thanks so much for saying hello. I appreciate it. Wadi, do I like using pip env? I use virtual env mostly, although I'm going to most likely have to switch to pip env because Python itself uses pip env. It's sort of a replacement for virtual environments and just making your projects packaged a little bit nicer. It's really cool. So definitely consider checking it out yourself. Can I make a video on real-time chat system in Django? Eventually, I have to do stuff with Django channels to get there. So yeah, we are working on that, Ravi. Thanks for the question. Real-time chat system like what we're doing right now in this top chat or this web chat. The real-time chat is really cool. It's interesting stuff. So eventually, yes, with Django channels version 2, but we have to do a lot of stuff on version 2 prior to releasing anything related directly to chat. Okay. Samuel asks, do you have any videos that teach how to use the Google Drive API? I do not. Google has a lot of documentation on this. So if you're not that familiar with using a REST API, I do have a bunch of stuff on that. So check that out because that will help you in working with Google Drive's API as well. Next one, Deepish says... man, for some reason, when I scroll just a little bit, it goes to the very bottom. I'm not sure why it does that. Upload tutorial for Django and Angular. All right, so I have some for that kind of puts that in pieces, right? And if you watch this video that I did yesterday, which is Django and JavaScript, so any front-end JavaScript like Angular, I actually uploaded a video specifically for that. So if you do try Angular version 4 with whatever newest version of Angular, because Angular CLI will tell you if you're doing something incorrectly and give you suggestions. So you can use try Angular as well as the blog API project and do that integration yourself. That would be my challenge for you. Now, I have a tutorial or a course specifically on this on joincfe.com/courses. It's Django plus Angular plus Ionic. The Ionic portion, it has been delayed, but Angular is out, so you can see exactly how to do that integration. Lewis, what's up? João de Boa. João de Boa. I've never heard that one. And I'm changing your life. Thank you. Appreciate it. What's up, Lewis? De Boa? No? João de Boa. That's an interesting one. Gasparov? What's up? That's interesting. Got your sunglasses on. I don't have sunglasses in here. Next one, Sue Tan. Do you know how to use Webpack to bundle static files for Django apps? To hash and minify my own JS, CS files so that I do not need a clear cache after deployment. So with Webpack, you can put your output directory to where you have your local Django static files loading. And that way you can have it using directly in Django. Honestly, like if you were going to do it that way, I'm not actually sure why you would want to do it that way when you're actually working in the non-production. So please clarify what it is that you're trying to do exactly. Sorry, that kind of went on a little bit. Douglas, your most recent message or the message after that says it was retracted. Not sure why. I realize some people think that I'm skipping their questions sometimes, but YouTube says message retracted. So that's what I'm relaying to you. So if for some reason I'm not answering your question, that's why. Lacan asks, in relation to what Samuel said, what if you had an instance method on a custom user model name is student or is teacher similar to is authenticated? This would require you to add the fields. Actually, no. So you don't actually have to create a custom user model to make that happen, right? So if you want to have instance methods on your user, much like user.isAuthenticated, instead of it being user.isAuthenticated, it would be user.profile.isAstudent or .isTeacher. So user.profile, and the way you make user.profile happen is by using a one-to-one field in the profile model to the user model, and then when your user's created, have a post-save signal that creates the profile. Yeah, hopefully that answers your question. Sutan, you found the Django Webpack loader package as a solution, but it's not exactly what you expected. Not sure what you expected, so please clarify what it is that you're looking to do. Wadi, are there Django admin, React, or Angular version? Not sure what you're asking. Are you asking if the Django admin, for the actual Django admin, if you can use React or Angular to override it? Not sure why you'd want to do that exactly, so please clarify. Douglas, happy to answer your questions. Thanks for asking them. And if you have more, please feel free, ask away. It seems like we have a good number of questions. I'm probably going to do this maybe for another 20-25 minutes or so. And I'll try to get to all of the questions. If I miss any, leave them in the comments of the video after it posts on YouTube. So it might take like an hour or more. And once we get there, then I'll respond to these questions on the next live stream. Maybe it's tomorrow, maybe it's the next day, but I'll answer them as soon as possible. Cool. So thanks for the question, guys. Really appreciate it. Alex Franco, I've seen multiple of your projects, but still looking for one to publish on a private server. Combining Django and React or Django and Angular, is there a good practice? Well, the video I posted yesterday on Django plus a JavaScript front end will help you with that portion of it. When you say a private server, all you need to do is put it, I'm assuming when you say private server on a local area network, that I actually cover in the home baked project for a Raspberry Pi. That same concept can be used for a local Linux server as well. So you could have that working. So that's how you would do all of those things. I realize I'm not telling you exactly how it's done, but there's a lot of videos on how to do that. Essentially, in a roundabout way. If you have more clarifications, just let me know, and I'll try and answer them. Okay, I do not know how to pronounce this name, so Suahutli? Miguel? I know how to say Miguel. Suahutli? Am I saying it correctly? There's no way I'm saying that correctly. But Miguel, thank you for the question. It can be used SQLite database in production, or always have to use... Oh, so can you use SQLite in production? It's not recommended because SQLite itself is not really that secure. So you would probably want to use Postgres or MySQL at this point. Those are very secure databases for Django. A lot of questions come up as MongoDB. I haven't seen a great project in integrating MongoDB with Django in a secure fashion, so I don't recommend doing that just yet. Douglas, all right. I'm looking forward to reading this one. Okay, so in order to get 500,000 subscribers, most of the YouTubers, what they do is that they schedule when they're going to upload content and when they're going to have a live stream. So basically, they're super consistent on uploading stuff. Like I am not. I have not been historically very consistent on uploading on YouTube. I realize that a big part of the reason for that, or has been the reason for that, is one, I haven't been doing these sort of live streams, and two, I build a lot of content in general, and not all of that content makes it to YouTube. It's just not practical for my business to have everything on YouTube. So there is so much more content on joincfe.com. That being said, I am super interested in helping more of you on YouTube, so I'm going to be adding a lot more content here. That is absolutely something I'm doing, and it's being recorded. So, I mean, it has to happen. I'm now super accountable to it, right? Just show me this video if I'm starting to slack or something like that. Okay, thanks for the feedback, Douglas. I really appreciate it. Yeah, I think that consistent thing is really, really important. And that's also why I've been trying to do live streams as much as possible to answer questions. Now, granted, this is not sort of the content that's got me to where I am on YouTube anyway. I think the content is more tutorials, making those sort of things happen more. But obviously, I want to hear what you guys think. If there's more sorts of things that you want to see from me that aren't necessarily tutorials, let me know. Yeah, I'm curious what you might want to see if you do. Matrix Dexter. Hello, Matrix Dexter. That's a great movie if that's what you're referring to. I would imagine you are. I love the way you guys do stuff. You build people's lives. Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm glad you do. Much appreciate it. Douglas, Platzi is a YouTube channel that started like you. Now they are an online school of programming. They did live streams constantly way before they had YouTube Live. Oh, interesting. So they started with live streams. Did they do tutorials with live streams, or did they do something more like this? I am all for doing a tutorial and a live stream. The only reason I think it's not that I haven't done it is I don't think it's actually the best experience. I think it's probably better for me to have something well worked out, record that video, upload it, and then us have a conversation like this, where this is more of like a workshop than like an actual tutorial, because I can only move as fast as, like, especially doing something live. First of all, recording a tutorial and answering questions at the same time means that the experience in the long run, so outside of the live one, has some challenges with context, right? So like, I'm going to stop the video and then answer some questions and go back. Like, you guys ask a lot of questions, a lot of good ones. So it's like tricky to do a live stream and a tutorial, in my opinion. If you guys feel differently, if you want to see live tutorials, let me know. Maybe we can make that happen. And then be around specific topics for that live tutorial. And that's all we really do. Maybe answer some questions there, but really just do that live tutorial and schedule it and have the name and all that stuff that we end up doing. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe it is. We'll see. Thanks for the question or the comments, Douglas. Really appreciate it. Manuel Bonanit. Not sure what that means. Please clarify. Is it Spanish or is it gibberish? I don't know. Samuel, how would you recommend using HTTP response redirect in a Python script or in the action in the form tag? Not sure what you're saying here. Are you saying that you want to trigger a Python script after running a form? If that's the case, then you're probably not going to use it in the action, like the endpoint. I mean, you can absolutely use it in endpoint. HTTP response redirect is about redirecting the user to some different page. So yeah, you could use that too. Not sure what you're saying there. Dylan, keep up the good work. Thank you, Dylan. Appreciate it. Just want to say thanks. And you're down the road in South Orange County. Cool. Like San Clemente area, something like that. I do like South Orange County, and I've thought about moving down there before. But thanks for watching, Dylan. Much appreciated. Manny King, like as in mani pedis, like manicures. Not that I have a lot of experience with that. But anyways, hello, Justin. I am learning from your Django core video, and I'm also reading about Django official documentation. I do not know how to take some concepts from your videos because some videos are too fast. Yes, I realize I have a tendency to speak rapidly, especially if you're learning and you're a brand new beginner, or maybe you don't know English that well. I've heard that one quite a few times. So there's a couple reasons why I speak rapidly. Number one, that's just the way I teach. That's sometimes a challenge. I mean, teaching pretty much anything, that's typically how I do. I have tried to retool that over the years to be a little bit slower, especially for beginner classes, and just really take more time. But as you see, even in this live talk, I don't know. I don't think I'm going that slow. You tell me if I am. But part of that reason is out of respect for everybody, right? So for those of you who don't learn it as fast, you can rewatch the video and you can do it without spending so much time. And I really, really encourage you to do that. So rewatching the video 4 or 5 times and not trying to do it the first couple times, but just watching it and seeing how it's done and then doing it, that is a valid option. Another thing is, of course, you can change the playback speed, which can make a difference. And then finally, taking different tutorials from us. So like, I think you're in the Django core class. That is more about a reference guide after you do something like try Django 1.11, which is more of an introduction to Django to give you an overview of the concepts in action. And then the core class is about like diving deeper into those concepts after you have some familiarity with them. Tripping over my words. That means I need some water. Thanks for the question, Manny King. Appreciate it. And of course, I mean no offense by saying Manny, Petty, and stuff like that. Just joking around. I do not try to offend anybody with their name whatsoever or their username unless they intend for it to be offensive themselves. Then maybe we'll have a different discussion. Okay. Thanks for the question, guys. I really, really do appreciate it. Eski Morrow asks, what would you advise to improve your skill at making architectural solutions for the project so you don't need to rework the whole lot when something changes? So are you referring to like a version changing? Like if Django 2.0 comes out and you're still using Django 1.11? Is that sort of what you're referring to? If you are, I would stick with the LTS version. That's the long-term support version. Django 1.11 happens to be an LTS version. Django 1.11 will be supported by the Django core developers a year and a half longer than Django 2.0. That's something to keep in mind. So when you are working in your projects, these huge changes won't happen as much with the LTS related stuff. And the best third-party packages stick with that as well. So they stick with that version and have support for those LTS versions, even if newer ones come out. So I think that part is really important when it comes to building your project. Now, reworking the whole thing, you shouldn't have to do this very often. I mean, if you're very, like, it also depends on your experience level, of course. But if you're really experienced, you won't have to do this very often. If you're not very experienced, you might have to. And I actually think that's a good thing. So redoing the whole thing, like from scratch, like let's say, for instance, you built a web application 6 months ago, you learned some more things about Django, and you want to improve that web application. Or maybe it's not Django, maybe something else. But just scraping the whole thing and doing it from the get-go is a really, really useful exercise. I've done it many, many times with many different projects because you think of new solutions, for one. Number two, you start to write your code a little bit more efficiently. Number three, you can always reference that old code to make things go a little bit faster. Yeah. Okay, cool. Thanks for the question, Eski. Really appreciate it. Okay, so next one. Alexander, can Django might be used for high load projects like 10,000 RPS, requests per second? Yes, Django can handle that. It depends on your server and if you have a load balancer and all of the architectural setup for your backend, right, for your server itself. But Django can handle that. Django also is or has been, I'm not positive if it still is, but I'm pretty sure it is, the core of Instagram. It has other technologies that work with it, but Django is still doing that. So yeah, it can definitely handle 10,000 requests per second. Muhammad asks, can you do a tutorial on WebSockets? I intend to. Django channels is a big part of using WebSockets. So that's something I intend to doing in the near future. I don't have a timeline on that just yet because Django Channels 2.0 was released somewhat recently. So I'm still waiting for them to fix some of the bugs that they inevitably do with a new major release like they just had. But also it takes a little bit of time for me to go through those changes so I can implement them so you guys can learn from them. Cool. Django REST Framework, Bernardo asks, does Django REST Framework work as good for XML as for JSON? Yeah, absolutely. Those are just different data types. And I personally like using JSON a lot better. I think XML is sort of not used as much, but you absolutely can do that. And the Django REST Framework provides really, really good support for that. Is there an alternative for XML? There probably is. So yeah, that might be something you research on Stack Overflow for another XML service or REST API service for Django. Or maybe somebody else on here knows of something. Oh, I know what I wanted to ask you guys. Are you interested in me releasing a Slack channel for all of these sorts of discussions that they can go on for good? But then also you guys can maybe chat with each other there as well. Let me know. Let me know what you think. It'd be similar to, I mean, if you've used Slack before, you'll see why I want to do that. But the nice thing is then we can sort of have ongoing discussions about all sorts of things. And then in these live ones, I can reference some of them for these common questions and answer them there, or even just make little videos discussing those things too. So let me know if you want to see something like that, a Slack channel specifically for what we're doing here. All right, so let me scroll up. Next question, Javid asks, do you find the tutorials on building app in official... so are you asking, should you use Django's official site to start learning Django? Well, if you have... I mean, yeah, of course. Like if you go from the documentation, you will learn a lot about Django. You can learn everything you need to know from the documentation, without a doubt. That's what it's there for, right? And that's how you can improve, and that's how I improve now. Because it's the core Django developers. The core Django developers are there trying to make Django all better all the time, and those documentations serve as a way to introduce you to those new changes. Now, when I was learning, I found that it's really challenging to understand the context of these documentations. Even if they are very, very well documented, which a lot of them are, sometimes it's still hard to know when you do one thing or another. And that's why I have the Try Django series. Any of them, even the Try Django, the super old one from a few years ago, they still have relevant information in there. There's definitely pieces that are missing because of changes in code, but little pieces. So I recommend that you check out the Try Django series here on YouTube and stick with the version in the video, regardless of what version it is, because as a beginner, what you want to do is you want to be able to work through these things and understand them and not be hung up on the version number, because it really doesn't make that much of a difference. I promise you, I've been teaching beginners how to code for years, for over 5 years now. And this is a question I get all the time. Hey, why isn't it version X or version Y? And those are valid questions, because the newest version should be the best version, right? It should be. But the concepts for beginners, those things don't change that much, or they haven't in relation to Django, in relation to Python. The majority of those things are the same. It's when you watch an older version and you're trying to use the newer version that you run into issues related to just the version, because they change one little thing or another little thing, and it's super frustrating as a beginner. I totally get it. So that's why you always, no matter what programming video you're watching, you always want to stick with the version that's in the video. And if you're ever confused about what that version is, just ask a question on the video and somebody should tell you, or it should be in the video itself. For the ones I do, I definitely try very hard for the very first video to make sure that you guys know, or the very first couple of videos to make sure you know what it is, what version that we're working in. Hopefully that answers your question. I say that so much. I said that last stream and stuff like that, but I really want to answer your questions. That's why I say hopefully it does. And if it doesn't, please let me know. Mohammed says, can you talk about your story and what got me into starting into programming? Yeah, so I started basically when I was probably like 14. I wanted to have my own business. I wanted to own a business, and there was a lot of things that I knew that I probably needed. So when I was 14, let's see, I'm 30 now, so that's 16 years ago, and we're talking 2002, 2001. Yeah, something like that. I can't do math right now. So that time, it was very popular to actually have a web page, just a very basic HTML and CSS web page. Web apps were coming on the scene, but the Web 2.0 thing hadn't hit yet. So websites were very popular. So for me to start a business, I was like, well, how do I start a business and how do I let people know about it often? I mean, there's things like MySpace out there, but of course, MySpace was made for that one area, and I really wanted to have a branded website, right? It totally made sense to me at the time, and it still does. So for that business, I got some advice to learn how to do HTML and CSS by literally just picking up a book and working through the examples and then building it. And I was able to do that. I was able to do it fairly quickly, surprisingly, and it was actually not that challenging to do. But that wasn't quite programming, right? So it took a few years and another startup to fail before I realized that I wanted to learn how to program in order for me to have my ultimate goal of working online and doing something that I found challenging and meaningful at the same time. That's what led me into doing programming. I tried so many things, so many programming languages. I mean, I started, gave up. I did it multiple times on different languages. And then I finally found Python, and it just like really, everything started to click. And then I found Django, and then I could build web applications. And then fast forward to a few years, then I started teaching others how to do it too. And now we are here where we are. And I've been teaching others how to do it for a little bit over 5 years now. So I've been working in Django for a while. Yeah, so that's a little bit about my story. I've definitely talked about it in other live streams in more depth. So let me know if you want to know more things about that. Cool. So Douglas is responding to Sutan. Thanks, Douglas. Appreciate it. And I'll let you guys look at those. Okay, so Calm Sam asks, hi, I am new to Django. Welcome. And you're asking, how do you improve yourself in Django? Because Python you feel is difficult, what could I suggest? Well, if you find Python difficult, you might want to do a lot of the basics of Python first. We have a series called 30 Days of Python that will help introduce it to you. but you should learn anywhere. So codecademy.com has a Python track that I think is actually pretty good. You can go step by step, and it will make sure that you're following along with it. And then finally, it's the mindset. I mean, do you really want to learn this stuff? If you do, then stick with it, right? It's going to happen eventually. And, like in my own experience, maybe Python isn't the language for you. Maybe you should try a different language and do that one. But until you give an adequate shot, meaning like if you go through the Codecademy's Python track or our 30 Days of Python and still not sinking in, then try another language and see how that language is. And then maybe you make some new connections and maybe you come back to Python, or you stick with that other language like JavaScript or Ruby on Rails. And you do it until you finish, right? And just don't give up. I mean, asking a lot of questions, I think, will really help you. Also having a very specific project in mind that you want to build, that also gives you a roadmap and hopefully some motivation to make it happen. All right. So, do you think is web app will kill mobile app? Do I think web apps will kill mobile apps? I think that's what you're asking me, Wadi. Not necessarily. I mean, yes and no. The internet, the web, the internet, if that starts to get like, if the mobile devices start to prevent things from happening, like, let's say, for instance, iOS or Android, they're no longer releasing some of these apps that people love, or they're pulling them from their app stores. That's the moment when web apps will start to take off all over again. So keep that in mind. I mean, if that ever happens, I don't think it will. I think they work nicely hand in hand together. And if anything, mobile apps are probably financially doing better than web apps at this point overall. But I think they work together very nicely. So a successful mobile app will likely have a successful web app, and also vice versa. It's not always the case, but sometimes it is. So hopefully that answers your question. But I think they work very symbiotically. So they have a reason to stay around together, and neither one's going to kill each other is the point. Kava, Brazil here. Nice. Welcome, Kava. California is here. That's where I'm from, at least, if that makes sense. Thank you for the nice comment. Thanks for you coming and showing up. Manuel, Catalan. Hey, what's up? Good night. It's probably kind of late there, huh? 12:30, maybe even later. Kava, you're learning a lot with me. Thank you. I'm glad you are. It's awesome. Great to hear. Samuel, I meant for the profile view of the user, is it better to use the form action tag or HTTP response redirect? Samuel, what do you mean by better for what? Sorry, sometimes I lose the context of these questions if you're chaining them together. I realize that you guys might know the chain of that question, but with me going through several of them before I respond to your next question, sometimes I just lose the context. So this might be one of those cases. So if you don't mind giving me more of the question of like what it is that you're trying to do, I'll hopefully better be able to respond. If it was about like the user type, then you could use HTTP response redirect. That would probably be the better method. Clever Technologies, I have a simple question. I used Ajax to fetch data from a PHP script. It's actually a login form now. After login success, I want the user to be redirected to another page, but Ajax doesn't read the redirection from my PHP script. Please, how to do it. I don't use PHP, so I don't have a good answer for PHP. But with jQuery, if you're using jQuery to do your Ajax, I'm not sure if you even need to. That's something I just don't know. I don't use PHP. I don't know. But if you're using JavaScript to do your Ajax, then you can do window.location and then put it equal to where you want it to go, and it should redirect that. Pretty sure that's how you do it. A lot of times I have to look that up. So if you have to, look it up. Cool. Thanks for the question anyway. So Zumo TV, do I work with an IT company or working? I have my own company, and that's what I do. I teach people how to code. That's the main thing. I do some consulting here and there. And then I also every once in a while do freelancing, but that's become a lot more rare because there's just so much stuff that I need to do for my business that doing freelancing work takes too much time away from it. Where consulting is a little bit easier to do because it's consulting. You just kind of give some advice to a client based on their demands. And if you have the experience like I do, it's a lot easier to give really good advice in a short amount of time. At least that's what I think. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's also why I'm here. I'm trying to give you guys as good advice as possible in little nuggets or shorter times. Dylan, you live in Ladera. Okay, cool. That's awesome. Okay, real question. Working on a site that might benefit from multi-tenancy, and thinking about multiple stores, same company. Do I have anything on that? No, I do not. Sorry, I don't. Just don't have anything yet. Oh, cool. You guys are interested in Slack. Awesome. I'll look into it and see what we can do because, yeah, I mean, it's kind of a big thing to put a Slack out there. Is it? I don't know. Maybe it's not. Slack's pretty easy and it can be shut down just as easy as starting probably. Cool. So that's something that we'll look into a lot more. Thanks for the feedback there, guys. Any video on test-driven development? So yeah, we have Django tests on our webpage, joincfe.com/project. I called it a webpage. On our website, it's all there. So test-driven development, meaning that you're going to write a model and then create a test for that model. You write a view, you create a test for that view, and you just create a bunch of tests. Now, I think typically with TDD or test-driven development, I think typically what happens is you get bogged into doing too many tests, like you're writing too many tests. So you're definitely going to want to keep that in mind when you're writing these tests, is to not over-engineer the test. Because if you're over-engineering the test, perhaps the other pieces of your software need to be refined. Meaning if you have a super long test, that probably means that whatever you're testing needs to be refined or broken up into smaller chunks, so then you can test those smaller chunks a lot easier. The next thing, how do you take care of security for your website? Like a threat from hackers and cross-site attacks. And Slack channel is a good idea. Cool, thank you. So security is something that's going to be an ongoing thing that you're going to have to think about. One of them, definitely using a secure socket layer. So HTTPS, TLS, you want to make sure that you have that. Obviously, that's a must. And then you don't want to do some of the things that you might think, like you don't want to use GET requests when you should be using POST requests in some cases. Like if you're modifying the database, don't use a GET request, use a POST request. Unless you're logging something, which is a little bit different. But if you're changing something, you probably don't want to use a GET request. You probably want to use a POST request. That helps with security as well, because by default, Django will prevent bad requests from happening to endpoints, right? So like a POST request from another website to your website is going to be blocked if you have it set up by the defaults. That's something that Django has built in. And there's other best practices. I would actually look at their documentation on the security stuff that they recommend, and also watching videos on YouTube from security experts about how to best, prevent things like hacking or cross-site scripts from coming to you. There's just so many things that I could cover that I can't do here. But of course, whenever you get form data, you want to clean that data. So you use Django forms to get post data or put data and clean that data as much as possible. There's a lot. Cool. Manuel asks or says, Justin, I was looking for a Telegram channel about Django. There's one for Django Spain, but none in English. A Slack channel would also be nice. Oh, okay. So I didn't realize that Telegram also has channels. That's something I'll have to look into. I thought Telegram was just like a chat service on your website for a business. Yeah, maybe it's similar to Slack in another way. That's pretty interesting. So maybe Telegram might be a better solution than Slack. Let me know what you guys think there. Sutan, thank you for going through your question. I'm glad you did. You just shot me a YouTube private message to elaborate your question. It's over 1,000 characters. Sue, I will try to get to that, but I can't promise you. When I get these really, really long questions that have a bunch of code in them, it is it is fairly challenging to accurately assess them and give you a response. So I don't recommend sending super long questions. It's just very hard for me to answer. Lewis, your message was retracted. Maybe you deleted it. Maybe YouTube removed it. So maybe rephrase it if you have to. Sutan, good thing that you and Douglas are responding. That's awesome. It's great to see you guys chatting it up there. Cool. So we're going to do about 15 more minutes. So if you haven't asked a question yet, please just leave the questions as is. And then, because I still have a lot more that I need to go through. But what I would say is that if you have more questions, leave them on the comments of the video after it posts to my YouTube channel in the comment section, not in the chat section, obviously. Cool. So, Manuel, have you ever implemented a Django project with multiple databases? I have an idea in mind that involves a central platform for property managers to share documents with suppliers and owners. And would it be possible to develop an adjacent ERPs for each of them connected to one central one so the data is synced, for example, login details? Honestly, Manuel, I haven't ever actually used multiple databases because I've never made a project that required something for connecting two different databases, so I don't actually have an answer for you there. I would imagine there is a Django package to help manage that process. There's got to be, because this seems like a logical thing that would come up with other things, including ERPs and all that. Sorry, I can't answer that question for you. Clever Technologies, another one. I do web design with HTML, CSS, and JS, and I work with Bootstrap and Materialize, and I do backend with PHP. Do you suggest I learn Python and Django? It depends on what your goals are, Clever. If your goals are to have the cutting edge technologies, I would argue that Python is a really good thing to learn because it's not just for web like with Django, but you can also use it for IoT, like a Raspberry Pi. You can use it for artificial intelligence and deep learning and machine learning, like using TensorFlow, Keras, PyTorch, as well as Pandas, NumPy, scikit-learn. There's a lot of things that you can do there. So learning Python, I think, is a really good skill set to have, even if you tend to stick with using PHP in general. But I think as it comes as a software developer, you want to foster this mindset of an endless coder. And what I mean by that is you will always be improving the skill set that you have, but you won't be stuck with one particular language. I promise you, as soon as Python starts to deplete and a newer, better solution comes out, I'll have to start to learn that and implement that myself. I haven't seen it yet. Go has some promise, but Python itself is still picking up steam. It's still overtaking. It overtook Java as far as I know in universities in the US. Python is now taught more than Java is in all those places because of the reasons I just mentioned. So as soon as Python starts to go way out, because eventually it probably will, or what's going to happen is there's going to be some AI system or a deep learning system that actually writes the Python code for you in a way that's better than you've ever thought. And then it's still Python, but it's written in conjunction with your ideas. It's written with deep learning. So I would say foster this endless coder idea and try and see if you can develop your skills even more, because I honestly believe that the more skills you have, whether it's with languages, whether it's with technology, whether it's with marketing, the more skills you have, the better you are going to do in life, because you just have new perspectives that other people don't have, and you can potentially become like a linchpin in the organization. So Rohan asks, this is going back to any specific difference between a web app and a website. So let's think of a website as a dumb thing, right? So a website being a few pages, there's no login, there's no form, like I can submit data, there's no forum where we can all talk. That is just a website, right? So like if you're a local dentist and you need to have some information about your practice, you might have a website and that's it. You don't have smart features to it. A web app typically has smart features. It typically remembers things about your users, and there's a login, there's a way to actually submit data. That's generally what the difference is. And websites, just basic websites, only need to use HTML and CSS. They might use some JavaScript too, but that's pretty much all they need. If it's just sort of like a brochure, where a web app uses a back-end technology to store data with a database. So it's definitely like a smart website, if you will. Think of it in terms of like a smartphone, like something like this, versus a Nokia phone from back in the day where you could send text messages and you can do some basic things. That's how you can look at a basic website versus a actual web app. Hopefully that clarifies that for you. Ajax, hey, what's up? Good to see you here again. And you agree most mobile apps and web apps will work together. Yeah, cool. Glad you agree. Thank you. Simone, is it possible to make a live stream app with Django, like a live video streaming app with Django, much like what we have here? Yes, but it's going to rely on other technology to actually do the live streaming. So Amazon has a service specifically for that, as far as I know, and as far as I know, it's really good. Cool. Clever asks, let me scroll back up. Sorry, this thing. Can you make a tutorial on mobile money integration, or you don't use mobile money in your country? I do not. Where are you from, Clever? Mobile money as in what? Yeah, I'm not sure what that would be. I think I know, but I'm not going to guess. Okay, Douglas, good to see you guys have some questions here. Cool. So looks like I can show an Ajax had a question that was blocked out for some reason. I'd like to stick with Django and talk about Django and do Django and follow Django tutorials. Django. Okay, cool. So you want to learn a lot more about Django. That's awesome. And you came here to Coding for Entrepreneurs about Django. Yeah, we have a ton of stuff for it and we plan on doing more. So please feel free to ask more questions and all that. Yaya, maybe? Can you make a video about internationalization? I do have internationalization and translation on joincfe.com/projects. It's a little bit older of a video, but all the concepts are still there and they still work. Definitely have that there, so check that out. Simone asks, how would video files be served when using Django? Like an HTML will be streamed from the DB or downloaded when played? No, it would not be coming from your database. It would be coming from a static files server. So like Amazon S3, that static file server would be the one that will stream the video or transmit it to be downloaded. And there's also an actual streaming service to do live streaming, like what we're doing right now with AWS. But it's challenging. I mean, it took YouTube a while to actually get to live streaming. So be prepared for a big challenge if you end up doing live streaming through AWS. Even using their infrastructure, it is a challenge for sure. Beganovich, hello, what's up? Nice to have you here. Rohan, as a student, what should my next step be in Django? I have reached till creating APIs and all other things involved with try Django 1.8, 1.9. How do I learn creating generic apps like on Django packages? So try Django 1.11 would be a good place to go. How to create Django packages? Just check out. I think I have a tutorial on YouTube for PyPy. That's PYPI. Check out how to do that. That's how you would start to think about how to make Django packages. Just a few more minutes here, guys. So please hold those questions. Simone's last question is the last comment from Simone is the last question I'm going to get to. Let's see. Okay, Mohammed says, hi, for beginners, what do you recommend to do for Python programming in Django? Mohammed, if you can't rewind yet, rewind to earlier in this session because I talk a lot about what to do for beginners. Beganovich, hey, just got in. Your thoughts on Node.js. Node.js is awesome, and I highly recommend it if you know JavaScript. If you are more interested in getting things done using Python, Django is a really, really good solution. Node.js and JavaScript, a lot of JavaScript packages are fairly complicated because if you don't know JavaScript, then you have to learn JavaScript to get into them. But then also a lot of them come out. There's the JavaScript packages, there's just so many that come out all the time. It's somewhat true for Python as well, but it's not true for what you can do with web. I mean, there's not that many web development frameworks in Python, but there's a lot in JavaScript. So that's where, Node.js is a web backend technology, which has it's really good, and it has a lot of great benefits to it. But I typically, if you're a beginner, I typically say, hey, go the Python route, learn Django and Python, and then after you learn those things, then start to learn JavaScript and go for that. Clever Technologies, thank you for elaboration on Python. I think it's a good idea to learn Python. Can you record tutorials on Python? I have a ton of them, a ton. So definitely check out on joincfe.com/YouTube, so the YouTube channel, as well as my website, joincfe.com. Cool. Mr. Piggy 97, how about a course on Postgres SQL with Django? I actually show you how to integrate Postgres SQL with Django when you go live on Heroku. It's actually really, really easy to do. If you're referring to actually running commands in Postgres SQL or raw SQL queries, that's something I just don't do yet because it's definitely outside the context of what a lot of my students are looking for. So if more of you are looking for that stuff, please let me know and we'll think about how we can do that. Cool. Manuel, this time I proved me wrong, but I think that with hybrid frameworks like Ionic or NativeScript, web apps will take over. Yeah, it's hard to say. I don't know. Yeah, it's hard to say like what was coming in the future. But I think that Ionic and NativeScript, those sorts of frameworks do help you build native applications. So it's still a mobile application using web technologies, which is really, really cool. So, but that doesn't mean that native mobile applications are going to go away. Simone, you thought I shouldn't use S3 in production. No. Quite the opposite. S3 in production is a really good thing. S3 in development you can use as well. You don't want to use Django for your static files in production. That's what I said. Sorry if that wasn't clear before. Heavy M77, newbie for Python. I guess you're asking me, you're a newbie. Should you learn Python, yes or no? It's a very interesting way to ask that question. Yeah, do it. Python's awesome. I have a lot of other people that would say that. Thanks for the responses to Rohan and Mohammed. Appreciate it. Wadi, can you make a video on how to use AWS SES and SMS Twilio? That's an interesting suggestion. Thank you for that. Appreciate it. Maybe eventually we'll have more stuff on both of those things. We have a lot of stuff in our pipeline right now, so that's not something we're going to do just yet. Claver, you're from Ghana and you use all kinds of service providers offering transactions with your SIM card. Cool. I've definitely heard of Vodafone. We don't have it here, so I don't know how to do those sorts of transactions. But there's probably something called an API, a REST API, that they're using to run these transactions with any given mobile application or mobile website. So I would look into some sort of technology that's there. There's probably something equivalent to Stripe for what you're asking about. Otherwise, I would imagine it'd be really hard for developers to build things to do these sort of transactions. Cool. I think I actually went further than I said that I would, but I'll keep going. I'm really close to the end here. So Dodo Quack, can you please make a video about the deployment of a Django project, like comparison different cloud hosting? In one of my other streams, I actually compare the cloud hosting. I think I've done it a few times in one of these streams, so I'm not going to do it here. But we definitely show you how to deploy a Django project using Heroku on their free tier. So you can learn all the techniques on how to do it on Heroku. But that also setting up your Django project for Heroku, as well as any other cloud service or any other production service, that's how you would do it with Django. Now, that doesn't mean that these other services, if you're using like an Ubuntu server, that doesn't mean I show you how to set up that server to handle web hosting. But it does show you how to get your Django project ready for production. Okay, this is the last question, I promise you. Beganovich asks, do you believe in something like Electron.js with Pi one day? So will Electron with Python actually integrate or something like that, if that's what you're asking? Maybe. I would love to see a really, really good Python GUI where it's Not like Kiwi. Kiwi, I think, is a little bit more challenged than it needs to be, but it's something more in the vein of how Swift works. Swift is the open source programming language from Apple, and Swift you can use for server-side, you can use for mobile applications, and you can use for design. I would love to see something like that with Python that's just better. And then eventually that means that we could make mobile applications, we can make web applications, we can make desktop applications, all using Python. Kiwi has that promise, but I just don't think it delivers. And I would love to hear the contrary to that. I would love to see how it does deliver. I think in some respects it does, but I think overall, coming from a web background, I think that it's probably easier to build apps in Swift than it is to build apps using Kiwi. Okay, so thanks so much for all the questions and the attention. I really appreciate you guys jumping on these live streams. Hopefully you like these things. Please give me a thumbs up if you do. And of course, subscribe to get everything, and also ring that bell if you want to know about new live events that come out and happen. Thanks so much for watching, guys. See you in the next one.